Hi everyone, and welcome back to the online training of Adobe Illustrator at Ed4u4Sure. So today I am going to be teaching you about the type tool and typography. So any creative is incomplete without text. Let's say if we are designing a magazine cover, a poster, or a certain kind of a design that which requires text. So it is important to know about the type tool and the type tool properties, and also it is essential to know certain basics of the typography, which is irrelevant of the software, can be applied anywhere. So typography is just the playing around with text in a creative manner and certain basic rules that you need to know before manipulating text. All right, so today's session is going to help you in layouting and creating various designs related to text. And today we will learn about those basics, and later on we are going to create some text effects in the upcoming sessions. So let us have a look at the key pointers that we will be covering in our session. Okay. So the first one is the type tool. So just like any other tool in Illustrator, we have a type tool that is used to, enter text and enter text in a heading or a paragraph, and it can be used in multiple ways. We'll see that later on. Next is area type tool. Now this is again a different type of type tool which will help us, in fitting area into a fitting our text in a specific area that we have created. All right, then type on a path. Type on a path, with this feature we will be able to adjust text on a custom path that we have designed. Let's say if you have drawn a curve, a curvy line segment, or maybe a circle, so we'll be able to adjust text on these paths as well. So generally what we do is we type text in and we just straight away construct that text in a paragraph form. But let's say if we have to place the text on a custom path, we can do that as well. This will be helpful when while we are designing logos, or let's say some posters which require such path transformations. So at that time this tool will come in handy. Next is vertical type tool. Now what is this? Vertically typing text is can be done with the use of this vertical type tool. You will be able to place your text in a vertical manner. All right. Next, and there are various other ways in which you can manipulate this type tool. So we'll see that once we move on to Adobe Illustrator. Our last point is wrapping text around graphics. So how can this be useful? While we have often seen the example of wrapping text around graphics while we are looking at magazine covers or any magazine design, where there is a picture of a renowned icon, let's say an actor or actress, and there are certain text written onto the right and left of this particular actor. Then there is a heading for the magazine, probably the magazine name, right? And then we have some small little information below this placed in columns, right? So this would come in handy while we are designing magazines or brochures and various other designs, irrespective of the content. So we are going to learn about this as well. So without any further delay, let's move to Adobe Illustrator and learn about the type tool and various fundamentals of typography. Okay, so the first thing is where to find this type tool. Well, if you see here in the toolbar, this is the type tool with the icon T, right? If you hover over this, it says type tool, and the shortcut to activate this tool is T. All right, you can just press T on your keyboard and this tool would be active. Okay, now for instance, let's say I select this tool and you can see my cursor has changed into a blinking into a bar sort of. And if I click on my artboard, you can see, okay, I'll just zoom in so that you can see clearly. As and when I clicked onto my artboard, there is some dummy text visible to me, which says lorem ipsum. Lorem ipsum is nothing but a dummy text that would help you in, managing or creating some samples of designs where you can, you're not able to find a specific content. So to create that mockup or a sample, you can utilize this text either in Adobe Illustrator CC. We have this feature that as in when we type or write a paragraph, we have this dummy text available to us, and if it is not available to you, you can always google something up on Google, and you can go to any website or just search for lorem ipsum text as well, so you'll be able to find it right there. So right now this is highlighted, but we don't want this. We want to enter our own custom text. So let's hit backspace. So this dummy text has been deleted, and now you can type in anything that you want. I'm going to type Adobe Illustrator training. Okay, now that you're done, you just have to click somewhere else or go to your selection tool, and this would be selected. Okay, now as you can see, this text is coming way too small right now. And what if I want to increase the size of this particular text? Now, one thing, like any other object that we create and then we select it, we can select this particular text as well. But if you want to resize it, let's say if you want to scale it up or scale it down, please do not just simply drag these anchor points and scale it this way, or scaling it from the middle like this, or from the sides like this. Please never do this, because this is one thing which is going to make your work look ugly and less attractive. And believe me, this is the most unprofessional thing that you can do with your text. Even if your design is good, even if your layouting, your alignment, everything is good, but if your text is stretched like this, you're going to create a very bad impression onto the viewers. So never stretch your text like this. All right, so I'll just undo. So if you want to resize it or scale it up using these anchor points around the bounding box, please hold shift on your keyboard and then click and drag. Now, as you can see, it has resized very proportionally. Okay, so let's say you want to resize it from the middle anchor point. Just hold shift onto your keyboard and you can see it is resizing from the center, right? Now let's just keep it this much. Okay, so you can place it anywhere on your artboard. Now that I have zoomed in, you can see that if I hover over to this point, there is an anchor point that is visible to us, right? Now, what does this mean? This just simply means that right now, this text that we have entered is nothing but a point text. Now, what is a point text? Well, point text is nothing but, a text which is not inclusive of, let's say, I would say 2 or more lines. It just comprises of a single heading, or it can be used for a very short text, let's say a heading, a caption. So that point text is nothing but can be utilized as a heading or as a caption or a title for any work, right? It is a very short text and it doesn't comprises of paragraphs, all right? Now, I'll tell you about how to change this point text to paragraph text and paragraph text to point text in the later part of this session. Okay, now moving on, let's say I want to edit this particular text and change the font of it. How can I do that? Well, it's quite easy. All we have to do is either select this text. Now, since my type tool was open and I have selected this text this way, it is getting highlighted, which means that it is getting selected. Now, one way is to just select it this way, or simply go to your selection tool and click on this text. All right. Now, for changing the font of this particular heading, all we can do is we can go to the this tool control panel, and if we see, there are certain options. Like if we come to the character option, under this drop down arrow you can find a set of fonts. Now these fonts are currently installed in my system, so that is why I'm able to view these fonts. You can always add on to your font collection by just downloading certain free fonts from Google or from various websites. Either you can purchase those fonts or you can download them for free, and you can create your own set of fonts by installing them in your system. Now in Adobe Illustrator CC, we have this feature that if I hover over any of these fonts, you can see that this is showing me the preview right away, isn't it? So let's say if I select this font, now you can see it is changing the font style as in when I'm hovering over the various fonts. It wasn't this feature wasn't there in the older version of Adobe Illustrator, but now we have this sort of feature. Okay, now let's say you have to select any of these fonts. You can always scroll down and look for other fonts as well. Okay, let's say I'm changing my font to this one. All right, and what if I want, then what is this? The next thing to the character option is font style. Now, what is this font style? Well, right now our font is in a regular style. If you click on this drop down arrow, there are various other styles available for this particular font. Let's say if I click on light, you can see the font style has changed to a very light style, right? Light italic, it would change to a very light weight, and it changes to italics. Now regular, we have already checked on regular style. Okay, then only italics would change it to this style. We can always bold the text. Bold italic is another style that is available to us for this font. Now always remember that you won't always get these styles for all the fonts. I am getting these font styles because I have selected a font category which has these font styles available. All right, let's say if I select some other font, if I select Arial or some other font, let's say this one. Okay, or this Myriad Pro. Okay, now if I click on this drop down arrow, you can see only regular style is available to me, which means that all these font styles depends upon the type of font that you are selecting. You won't get all the styles such as light italic, bold italics for all the fonts. So it depends on the font that you are currently using. So these are nothing but the font styles available in some particular fonts. All right, okay, moving on, then we have the text size. Now if we want to increase the text size, considering certain particular numericals that we want to enter for that font size, then we can enter exact values and our font size can be increased or decreased from here. You can either enter the exact values or select any of these values from Illustrator panel, or you can just simply increase or decrease your font size with these up and down arrows. You can also use your this mouse cursor to increase or decrease your font size. All right. Now, but make sure that your mouse cursor is working first. Okay. So these settings are for the paragraph. We'll look into these settings a little later on. Okay. Now, and you can also change the opacity of this font from here. Now these settings that we are able to view in the control panel, we can also change from another panel, which is the character panel. Now if you come to your properties panel, under this properties panel, you can see that we have a particular section which is dedicated for the character settings. So we can change the font style, font, and various other settings from this particular panel. Now if I want this character panel outside of this properties panel. How can I do that? I can simply go to window and look for my character panel. If you go to type under window, you can see this character visible to you. The shortcut to make this panel available is Control plus T. Okay. Now we have our character panel outside of this. Okay. Now there are various options that are available to us that we can, implement on this particular text. Now, what are these options? We are going to look into them one by one. Okay. Now, before moving ahead, let's say I want to add another line onto this in this particular text. How can I do that? I will just simply double click on this. Now you can see there is this bar which is blinking, which is telling me that if I enter any text, it is going to continue adding text from this particular point. Now, what if I want to change line? What if I want to, right now, Adobe Illustrator training is written in one line. Now I want to move on to the next line. How can I do that? Well, if you don't want to continue typing in the same line and you want to change the sentence line, then all you have to do is press enter on your keyboard, and then you can see this blinking bar has moved to the next line. Now anything that you're going to type will be visible from this line. So let's say I am typing, this is line, this is line 2. Okay, then again I will press enter and I will change the line and I'll write this is line 3. All right, so this is how you're going to change lines in this point text. Okay, in this text tool. All right, so let us look at all these options one by one and what do these options do. So the very first one is the font size. We have already looked at the font size, and these fonts, you can also change the fonts from here. Then the font style can be changed from here. Okay, we have just regular style for this particular font. If you select any other font, you can change the font style according to that. Let's say I'm taking Georgia. Then for Georgia, I have all these options. Okay, I'll keep it regular. All right, so the very first option apart from the text size is this one, which sets the leading. Now, what is the leading, leading, you can call it anyway. All right. Now, this leading would tell us that what is the space between various lines. Let's say you have entered a particular text and you want to increase or decrease the space between these lines. How can you do that? All you have to do is just select your text. Our text box is currently selected. You can just select it this way, or you can completely select your text this way and increase this. So this leading is increasing the space, as in when you're increasing the value, this is increasing the space between the lines. And if you want to decrease them, you can just click over here and decrease the space between these lines. All right, is that clear? Leading is nothing but the space between the lines. Okay, you can adjust these settings from here. Okay, now I would recommend that you should keep this leading to auto. Always keep this on auto. Why is it so? Now let's say the font size right now is 44 points, but what if we increase that font size? Let's say I'm keeping the font size to 72. Okay, and I'm changing the, okay, I'll just undo. Currently the font size is this. I'm decreasing the font size. Let's say I'll decrease it to, or I'll just keep it to 48. Okay, so currently the leading is 72 points. Okay, now what if I am going to, change the font size? Okay, now if you see, we have set the leading to 18 points and our font size is 60. Now, if we decrease the font size, make sure that your text is selected first. Now, if you're decreasing the font size, let's say if your font size would have been 18 points, this is fine. The spacing between the lines is fine. But still the leading is 18. What if you wanted to increase this font size to, let's say, 48 points or 60 points? Now, if you see, the lines have started to overlap each other. Now, you have to make sure that your leading is on auto. You have to make sure that your leading is on auto. And what would that do? That it will automatically adjust the leading or the space between these lines. Now even if you change the font size to 72 or let's say 10 points, you can see that the leading or the space between these lines has been maintained, right? It is adjusting itself. And let's say the leading was somewhere around 11 points and I'm increasing the font size. Now you can see it's such a mess right now. All the line spacing has been, disturbed. So I always recommend to keep the leading on auto. Okay. All right. Let's change the font size to 36. Okay. Now next is kerning. If you hover over this particular icon, it says set the kerning between two characters. Now kerning is nothing but kerning is the spacing between two letters. Let's say you want to change the kerning between this T and R. How can you do that? Well, you can just simply select that. Okay. All you have to do is just make sure wherever you want to increase or decrease the kerning, you have your cursor at that particular point, and now you can increase or decrease the values as per your requirement. If you are able to see, I'll just zoom in. If I decrease this value, the R is shifting towards the T, right? Now, where is this required? While we are typing something, if something is coming on a small scale, then it won't be visible. But let's say if we are creating something which is going to be on a large scale, then that spacing would automatically be visible. All right. To the viewer, that spacing would be visible. And sometimes we have to adjust the spacing between two characters. Now, how can we do that? We can do that by adjusting the kerning between them, right? So what else? Let's say that we have adjusted this kerning, and by default, if you just keep it on auto, it will automatically change or reset the kerning. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't click anywhere on this particular text, you can see if I keep it to optical, either auto is recommended or optical is recommended. And if we do not place our cursor at any particular point where we want to increase or decrease the kerning, then we have only these three options visible to us: auto, optical, or matrix. Okay. But if you want to, let's say, increase or decrease the kerning at specific point, let's say I would like to increase or decrease the kerning bit here somewhere. Okay. So now that you have placed your cursor at a particular point, you can decrease the kerning, right? You will get appropriate chances to, you know, adjust this at particular places. See, the spacing is getting decreased bit here. All right. So this is how you can manipulate the kerning between two characters, or between two letters, I must say. Okay. Or you can just keep it on auto. All right. Now, next thing is tracking. Uh, as you hover over this icon, all we can read is set the tracking for the selected characters. Now, let's say I have selected this, and then I am increasing or decreasing the values. If you see, I decrease the values, all the letters in this particular word are coming close to each other, irrespective of the spacing that we have given in between, right? Now, if you want let's say I'll just keep it on 0. Okay. Now I'll take some other text. Let's say I'm typing I have typed a random text, and which is in all uppercase. So let's say I want to increase the space between all these letters. How can I do that? Well, I can do that by increasing the values of the tracking. Okay. Now, if you keep it on 100, you can see the spaces between the letters have increased. Similarly, you can increase it a little bit more as per your requirement. Now in modern designs, these kind of spacings or these kind of tracking can be seen in various headings or at various places. So you can always make use of this feature at various places depending on your design requirement. Okay. And if you want to decrease the spacing between the letters, then you can simply select the values from here. Either you can keep it on 0, or if you want to decrease it and bring them closer, this is how you can do that. Now you can see that the letters have almost started to touch each other or overlap each other, right? So this is what kerning does. Kerning increases or decreases the spacing between all the letters in a particular word. Okay. So if you don't want this to increase or decrease at a specific value, you can just keep it on 0. All right. Now this would be the default value or the default spacing between the letters. Okay. Now, if you come to the character panel, currently all the options are not visible to us here. So how can we make those options visible? All we have to do is go to this triple bar symbol and choose show options. Now, if you see that many other options are visible to us, which we can implement on the text. Okay, so after this tracking, what we have is this vertical scale. Now, what does this mean? That simply like we were scaling our text from these anchor points without using shift, right? See what it was doing? We were just scaling the text vertically. We can do this from here as well. Simply you just have to select the percentage of the scale that you want. You can increase more from this, or you can just simply enter the values. But I would recommend not to use this because it just looks very inappropriate and looks very unprofessional. All right. Now, just like we have scaled this text vertically, we can even stretch it horizontally. This is the particular option for increasing the text scale horizontally. What would it do? It would just simply stretch your text. And if you don't want your stretch to be scaled vertically or horizontally, just make sure the value is on 100%. Both the values are on 100%. Now, this is what a normal text would look like. But if you have, let's say, selected this horizontal scale, what would it do? It will just stretch your text horizontally, and this looks so bad. So I won't recommend this to you. So you should not use this. And if by mistake you have increased or decreased the values, you can just make sure that the value is set to 100% for both of these scales. All right, moving on, we have set the baseline shift. Now, what is a baseline? Let's say this is our heading, and I want to move this a little bit upwards from the line on which this bottom line on which all these letters are placed. I'll just zoom in to make it more clear to you. Now this is the baseline where all the letters are, their bottom edge is touching this particular line. All of these letters are aligned to the bottom at this particular line. But if you want to, let's say, move a specific letter up or down, how can you do that? You can just simply select that particular letter and increase the baseline or decrease the baseline. Now see, if when I increase the value, it is moving above the baseline. This blue highlighted area is our baseline, and if you see, the letter A has moved so much above the baseline. And similarly, if you want to move any letter below the baseline, you can just decrease the value. All right, see, this is how it would look like after changing these settings. Okay, all right, so if you don't want, if you just want to reset it, you can select this and change the point size to 0. Okay, select this particular text which you have moved above the baseline and set it to 0 points. Similarly with this letter, we'll change it back to 0 points. Okay, now if you see, they have moved back to their original place where the baseline was starting. All right, next is character rotation. Now, one way to rotate your text is to just by simply selecting it, and with this anchor point, these anchor points, if you move around these anchor points, you can rotate your text clockwise or anti-clockwise, right? But let's say I want to rotate each of these characters into a specific direction. How can I do that? Well, all you have to do is select your text, and then with this tool, just increase the degree value. See, right now it is rotating anti-clockwise. Okay, then if you want, you can rotate it clockwise as well. See, it is going to give you such a sort of an effect. You can always keep reset it to 0 degrees. Make sure your text is selected first. All right, if you want a specific text to be rotated, you can just simply select that text and change the values. Let's say we increase the font size for this particular text. See, you can create such sort of effects in the headings or at various places as per your designs. Depends on the creative process that you are going forward with. So all these options you can implement as per your requirement. Okay, I'll just undo this. Okay, so now there are some other options at this place. Let's check them out one by one. So the first one is all caps. Now, as you can see, our heading is already in uppercase. So even if we select this particular option, there would be no change, right? So let's select a text which is right now in a sentence case, or there are some letters which are in small lowercase. Okay, just like this one. Let's say we select this Adobe Illustrator training text, and we want all the letters, all the characters to be in uppercase. Then all you have to do is just simply click on this particular option which says all caps, And what it will do, it will change all of the letters case to uppercase. Okay, so instead of just retyping it again by switching on your caps lock from the keyboard, there is an easy way. All you have to do is just select your text and use this particular option, all caps. Okay, now make sure right now we have enabled this all caps option. Now next time when you're going to type in any text, it is going to come in uppercase only. But if you don't want that, if you just wanted to reset it, just make sure that you disable this particular option. All right, and then when you type, you can see it is coming normally. All right, so our next option is small caps. Now what does this do? Let us see. If I press this particular button, this particular option, it is changing. Okay, it didn't work on this one. See, it has changed it to small caps. Now what is the difference? If you see the difference, that all the initial letters of all the words are in a particular bigger size than the remaining letters of that word. All of these words are coming in uppercase, but the difference is the initial letters of each word are comparatively bigger in size as compared to the other letters. Okay, so this is what we call the small caps. All right, okay. So it is not working on a particular word. It will either work on a sentence, I guess, I believe. Okay, it's not working on this one. All right, then we have superscript. Now what is this superscript? And the next is subscript. You must have heard the words superscript and subscript while you must be using Microsoft Office or Microsoft Excel. So in that also we have these features. Now where are these used? Let's say I'm typing in a formula, a square plus b square is equals to c square. Now, if you see, this 2 is coming in the same position as the other letters or the other characters are, but I want to bring it to the power of a. So how can I do that? I'll just simply select superscript and see that has changed its position and the font and the size as well. And it looks like it has, moved. It looks like now it is the power of a. Okay, now it has gone in the superscript. So this will come in handy while you are writing some equations related to algebra or anything that requires a text to be in superscript. We can simply select that text and use this option. Now if I'm going to click on this option again, it'll bring it back from the superscript and place it as a normal text. So if you want to enable this again, just simply click on this and it will go into the superscript. Okay, now again if I type in any text, it is currently coming in the superscript. But if you don't want that, just make sure that you have disabled this option. All right, okay. Now, just like we wrote this and changed the to's position to the superscript, similarly, I type in a text, or let's say I type H2O. H2O, and I want this 2 to be in the subscript of H. How can I do that? I'll simply use this option which says subscript, and the 2 has moved to the subscript of H. Now, this is how you can utilize the superscript and subscript option. Okay. Next one is, if you want to underline a specific thing in a text, you can do that. Let's say I want to underline line 2. So I'll just simply select that text and hit underline. Similarly, I want to underline this. Then see, this particular text has been underlined for you. If we want to underline the heading, we can do that. Right? So if you want to utilize underline a specific thing to highlight it even more, you can directly select the text and underline it from here. Then the last one is strike through. Let's say that you have written a text heading, just for example, this is our text and we want to strike through it. How can we do that? We can just simply use this option and you see there is a line which is coming above this particular text. It almost looks like as if in a scenario we have to show that something is cancelled out, so we can use this strike through option. All right, so this is quite simple and quite easy to understand, right? It's nothing of very complicated sort of. So you can just try out all these features by yourself, and after using these features, just make sure you are just disabling them so that the next time you're typing in text, by default these features are not enabled. Okay, and this is something from where you can change the language. We don't generally change the language, so if you want to change language at any particular time, you can change it from here. Next is anti-aliasing. And what is anti-aliasing? I am going to show you. Let's just get rid of this text. Okay. Now let's say I'm typing in any particular text, or we'll just keep this dummy text for now. And I'll increase size. And let me change the font size of this font style for the font for this one. Okay, this is better. Let's use this font. And now to enable it, or maybe to make this particular thing more visible to you, first what we have to do is we'll have to go to view and check this pixel preview on. Okay, we have to make sure that this particular thing is on. We have enabled the pixel preview. Now let's say you are creating something that has to be published on web. Maybe you are creating a website, design for a website, or something that has to be published online. Now in that case, you're going to create something which is in a pixel based format, right? And we know that all these extensions such as JPEG or let's say PDF is fine. PDF is one other way. So the extensions which are related to things that are going to be published online, for that we'll be needing a pixel based text or pixel based graphic, right? So in that case, you will have to make sure that anything that you're creating, uh, all these text and everything, when it will go in a JPEG form, so it shouldn't get pixelated, right? Now we have assumed that this particular document or the thing that we are designing is going to be published in a JPEG format, or is going to be exported in a JPEG format. So in that case, what happens? So we know that it will be a pixel based document, right? So if I zoom in, and since my pixel preview was on, when I zoom in, you can see that wherever the curves are coming, now since pixels are in square, we already know that pixels are in square, and at these particular points, they are not very smooth, right? These squares are not properly or these curved edges have very rough pixels, or I would say the text is pixelated, right? So how can we smoothen this out, and how can we increase the quality and make it more crisp or make it more smooth, right? So for that we have anti-aliasing feature. So if you just select none, you select your text and select none, now you can see how pixelated this text looks, right? at the curve or at the curvy points, if you see, the squares are in a format that it looks like the edges of this text are so rough. Now, if you won't select any of the anti-aliasing feature, this is how your text is going to look in a pixel-based preview or in a pixel-based format. Now, to avoid this, what we do is we will select our text, go to the anti-aliasing feature, and we have these three options to select from. Now, whichever option you find suitable according to your text, you are going to select that. There is nothing specific that you have to select this only, but you can always try out any of these three options and look for the best one. All right. So let's check them out one by one. What if I click on sharp? So this is how my text is going to look when I have selected sharp. Okay. Then other one is crisp. So make sure your text is selected first, then we are selecting crisp. See, this is how it has made changes to the edges of this text. Then again select your text, and the third category is strong. See, this is how your text is going to look when you have selected strong. All right, now I'll again set it to none so that you can make out the difference. See, if we have turned on our pixel preview and we have selected, and there is none selected in the anti-aliasing method, so this is how pixelated your text is going to look. But if we select any of these categories, let's say strong, it has smoothened out, or it has made it look more sharp than it was while nothing was selected in the anti-aliasing, right? So crisp would make it look like this, then sharp would make it look like this. So based on your preference, you can select any of these particular categories. Okay, now make sure that once you have changed the settings of this particular text, then you are just turning off your pixel preview. All right. Okay. Once your work is done and once your file is exported in that format, now next thing that you're going to create, which doesn't require the pixel preview, so make sure you're going to the view option and turning off the pixel preview. Okay, so this is simply what the anti-aliasing method was, right? Okay, so this was all about the character panel. Now let's move on and look at some other type tools or the other categories of the type tool. Now where you can find these categories, if you go to your type tool and you can see a small triangle which is there, which means that we have some hidden tools under this option. All you have to do is just click and hold, and all the other options are visible to you now, right? Okay, let's look at them one by one. Okay, before moving ahead, let's we have right now seen point based text. Whatever we typed in, that was point text, right? Now what if you have to type a paragraph of text, paragraphs of text? How can you do that? All you have to do is just simply select your type tool. Now this time, instead of just clicking once, you can just click and drag, and you can see there is a rectangle which is coming in the size that you are selecting as per your drag, as per your mouse cursor. Now let's say I will just click and drag and release my mouse cursor here. Now this is what the dummy text that was coming in while we were typing the point text, and similarly we have some dummy text for our paragraph as well. Now if you don't want this, you can just simply press backspace and all of this text would be deleted, or if you want it, you can just keep this text as it is. Okay, so this is our paragraph text. Now one thing that I want to tell you, that how this point text was different from para text is, I'll just decrease the size of this one. Okay, Now, this is a paragraph text, all right? Now I'm selecting my type tool again. Now this time I'm going to enter the point text. Let's say I'm typing in magazine here. And then I type some random text. Okay. So this is all under the point text. Now notice one thing, that when I select this particular anchor point, and if I, just click and drag it towards the inside, what is it doing? It is just resizing it, just like we had that option to stretch this text in a horizontal or vertical manner. What is this anchor point doing? This is just simply stretching my text when I click in and drag inside or outside, right? We just undo these. Okay, but what happens if I do the same thing with the paragraph text? I'll just go to this anchor point and let's say I'm dragging it inwards. Now what is this doing? It is, adjusting my text as per the paragraph. Now if I increase this particular text box size, it is adjusting all of the text that was there in that paragraph. And if I move it towards inside, it is again adjusting that particular text as per the size of the, or the bounding box of the paragraph, right? Okay, now what if I want to convert this paragraph text to point text? How can I do that? Well, for that, all we have to do is just simply click on this blue dot, right? I hope you're able to see this blue dot. I'll just zoom in a bit more so that it is visible to you. I'm talking about this blue dot right here. So in order to convert this paragraph text to point text, all we have to do is simply hover over this blue dot and double click on it. So this says the selection contains overset text. The overset text will be lost upon conversion to point type. Do you want to continue? Now, what is this overset text? Now, since we have used a dummy text and there was a lot more text than we are able to see right now. So all of that text would be lost once we convert it to point type. So right now it doesn't matter. Let's just assume that our text was this much only, okay? So we'll hit yes, and I'm going to show you or let you know how to, how to manage that overflowing text. Okay, we'll see, look into that later on, but right now let's just convert this paragraph text to point text. So I'm hitting yes. Okay, now if I use this cursor, if I use this anchor point to, let's see what happens. Since this paragraph text is now converted to point text, now if we, click and drag from this anchor point, see, again it is just stretching my text horizontally. So this is what happening when we were doing the same with the point text, right? It was stretching my text horizontally with these cursor points, right? And again, even for my paragraph text, it is doing the same. Now, what if you want to change this to the paragraph text again? How can you do that? Again, for changing it from point text to paragraph text, you will simply double click on this dot again. Now it has, again, this blue highlighted dot means that it is a paragraph text. And if you're going to increase or decrease this bounding box size, it is going to adjust your text accordingly, right? Okay, this is one thing. Let's get rid of this point text. So just like we converted the paragraph text to point text, similarly, you can convert the point text to paragraph text as well. So right now we have converted the paragraph text to point text. Similar way, you can convert the point text to paragraph text as well. All right. Now I'll delete this again. Let's say I have a bigger paragraph. Okay. And I am decreasing the box size. So this is my text box size right now. If I zoom in, you know that initially there was a lot of text that we had in our box, and we just reduced the size of this text box. So where is all that text gone? Have we lost all of that text? What if we wanted that text? How can we bring that back? Well, let's say you just wanted a text in this particular box, and then the remaining text you wanted it to be placed somewhere else. Now, how can you bring that text back? Well, that overflowing text can be brought back by simply using this. If I zoom in, you can see this plus symbol in a red box, right? Now, what does this symbol means? That this symbol means that we have some overflowing text which was there once our text box was bigger in size. Let me just increase the size of my text box. And if you see, this much text we had in our text box, right? And when we decrease the size of this paragraph box, we had some overflowing text. Now, how can we place that overflowing text somewhere else? Well, all you have to do is just simply click on this particular red box, and then you can just click and drag and create another text box. Now, wherever you're going to see this thread is forming, which means that it is part of this particular text only. Now, again, we have some more flowing text. Either we can just manage the size of this text box and incorporate all the text in this one, or if we want it to come in certain proportions or in certain boxes within a specific area, we can just simply click and drag and make a box for that particular text. Now again, it is showing that there is some overflowing text with this red symbol. So either you can just click and drag or click on it and then double click it anywhere, and it is going to create a box for you. Now all these threads that you're seeing, what does that mean? That these boxes are connected, that all this data is connected, and it is called threading. What is it called? Threading. Now whatever changes I'm going to make in any of these boxes, it is going to affect all other boxes as well. Let's say if I'm decreasing the size of this text box size of this particular paragraph box, it is affecting the other boxes as well. Let's say I'm increasing the size of this text box, so it affected the other boxes as well. All right. Okay. Next is, let's say if you're decreasing the font size for this particular paragraph, will the other boxes get affected? Well, yes, they are getting affected as the text is shifting up or moving, right? So this is how you can connect various text and place them according in different areas in different boxes, and this is how you can manage your overflowing text. All right. Okay. Now let us look at some other features of the paragraph tool and how can we manage the text inside text in long paragraphs. How can we manage that? Let's see. So I'm just gonna get rid of all this text first. Then I'm gonna write in a specific dummy text again. Okay. Let's assume this is our dummy text. Now you can either align them towards right, left, or in the center. How can you do that? Well, if you go to the paragraph option, let me just bring this out by going to Window, Type, and then selecting Paragraph. Okay. So these are all the options for paragraph. So as you can see that right now our text is aligned towards the left. If you look at the left edge, all the text is perfectly aligned at this edge. And if you see on the right edge, the text is not aligned. But what if you want to align the text on the right? So you can just simply select the align right option. See, now your text has been aligned on the right side or right edge. All right. Then if you want to center align the text, you can just select this option and then your text would be center aligned. So these are the three options to align your text towards left, center or right. Okay, then I'm going to align it left again. Okay, then what we have is justify. So let's say you want to just justify all of this text. You can simply click on this option and it'll this particular option will justify your text toward with the left align. See, your text has been left aligned and justified. Then if you want to justify with last line aligned center, so see, these were different paragraphs and the last line has been aligned in the center. Okay, then again justify with last line aligned right. So this is how your text is going to look like. The last line has been aligned towards the right. Last line of all the paragraphs, if you notice, have been aligned to the right hand side. Okay. Then again, the last option is simply justify all lines. So it is going to fit all your text inside the bounding box or the text box and it will justify your text centrally. All right. See, this is what this particular option does. So you can change as per your requirement. Okay. All right. So what are some other options? Let us look at those. Now, if you see, there are right now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs in this particular text. I'll just get rid of one of these paragraphs. Okay. Now, if you see that there is some extra space left in the bottom, right? Now, what if I don't want this extra space and I just want my bounding box or my text box to be of the size where my line is ending or where my text is ending? So how can I do that? Well, for that, all you have to do is I'll just zoom in. If you see this option, this box which is coming at the below. So once you double click on this box, see, all your text, the bounding box has been shifted to the edge where your text was ending. It has moved closer to the to the place where your text was ending. Now, if you're going to double click on that again, since there is no extra text or extra space, so that can't be undone. Okay, let's say you're entering some space and this is just free space, right? This is just some extra space that you don't require. So what you can do, you can just simply click on this particular option. And why is it not happening? Because we have entered this space by our own, right? We entered this space by pressing enter, and I'll just hit backspace now. And you can see the space is getting reduced. Okay, so this is how you can manage the extra space below your bounding box. Okay, so this was one other thing. And this is nothing. Okay, then let us look at some other paragraph options. So the first one is left indent. So if you want to increase the left indentation size, if you look closely at the left edge of this paragraph text right now, and if we increase the left indent value, see, all our text is getting indented. From the left, it is increasing space for the left indentation, right? So this is how you can increase your left indent. And similarly, if you want to increase the space for right indent, you can increase the value from here. And if you notice, your right indentation is getting increased. It is adding some space from the bounding box and moving your text as per the indentation. So our text is going on to the next line as per the indentation that we are increasing. So this is how our text would look once we have increased the left and right indentation. And now we have some overflowing text. For that, what we can do is we can just simply increase our text box size. Okay, all right. So this is how our indented text would look. Then we have first line indent. Now let's say we are writing a letter. I'll again get rid of this paragraph so there is less text. Okay, and I'll add some space on top. So I'm writing to someone. Let's say I'm writing this letter to my friend. So I'm gonna write, dear friend, then greetings. And then, in a letter, what we do is we, try to write, give some indent or give some spacing in the first line, and then we write, right? So for that one, what you can do, so this should be in some other text box, I believe. So we'll just remove it from here. Okay, so this is one text box. I'll just move it down. Let's say we are writing a formal letter. Let's paste the text. This time I will write, respected sir. Let's suppose we are writing an imaginary letter, and then we are writing, respected sir, greetings. Then we have this letter content below. And let's say I want the first line indentation to start from here. So how can I do that? I can do that by using this option, using the first line indent, first line left indent. So I can increase that from here. I can just simply enter certain values. Let's say I'm adding 30. See, now the first line of every paragraph has been indented to this particular point. Okay. So if you want to increase or decrease that indentation, you can just simply increase the values from here or decrease the values from here. Okay. So all the first lines have some indentation towards the left. Okay. Let's just undo that. Okay, but if you enter 0 point, it will just reset itself. Then what we have next is space before paragraph. Let's see what happens now if we do that. Now space before paragraph is, let's say one paragraph is ending here at this point. I'll just create a box and show it to you. And I'll change the color. So our first, this is where our second paragraph is starting, and then again this is where the other paragraph is starting, right? And now I want to add some space after the paragraph. So how can I do that? I'll just simply select my text And if you see, we are getting some space before, sorry, this was space before paragraph. So even for the first paragraph, which was starting from a certain point, I'll just undo. So it was starting from here. I'll just create another line. So this is where our first paragraph is starting from. And if we select this option, space before paragraph, it is adding some space before every paragraph, right? And similarly, if we want some space after the paragraph, then this time it is going to add space only after one paragraph is ending, and then it is going to add some space for the other paragraph to start. So this is the option for space after paragraph. If you increase the value, so either ways you can use any of this option to add space before or after the paragraph. All right. Okay. Now next is this hyphenate option. Now if you see, currently the hyphenate option is on, which means, what does this mean? If you see, I'll just zoom in. There are certain text, let's say this text which is hyphenated, which means that this is one single word, but half or some part of the word is coming in this line, and then we have a hyphen, and the other part of the word is coming from the next line. So if you don't want this hyphenated text, if you want to get rid of this hyphenated text and instead you want this entire word to move to the next line, how can you do that? You can just simply select your text and you can just uncheck this option hyphenate. Select your text and uncheck this option hyphenate. Now if you see, there is no text which is coming in the form of hyphens. There is no incomplete words in your text. Whatever word that was there, which was starting from a hyphen and from the next line, now it has shifted that word to another line. Now again, if you check this option for hyphenate, see, some of the part of the one single word is coming in one line and the other part is coming in next line. And if you don't want this hyphenation of text, you can just simply uncheck this. All right, so this was all about the paragraph settings. Now let's move on to the categories of our type tool. Let's get rid of all this text. Okay, this is our type tool. First one is the area type tool. Now let's see what happens with this tool. Now let's say I'm taking my type tool and then I'm typing in some dummy text. Okay, now there is this option under the area type. Now let us look at all these options. I'll just open area type options, and this is one tab that we have got on our screen. Now first of all, if I just close that, and so currently this is my text. You can always place this text, you can align it on top, align it in center, then if you want to align it at bottom, or if you want to vertically justify, then you can use these various options as per your requirement. Okay, so currently I have just aligned it on top, and then we are going to look at the other area type options. So I'll just simply click here, and this with this pop-up, let's see what happens. You can always increase the height and width of your bounding box. Now there is the option to add rows and columns. Now let's say you are designing a magazine or a newspaper. You're designing a newspaper and you know that there is certain text which comes in rows and columns as well. There is specific data that has to be managed that way. So what if you wanted certain rows and columns in your text? How can you do that? Well, you can add rows by just simply, see, now right now I have added 4 rows. Now the data is present in 4 rows, and then if you want columns, you can add a number of columns as well. Okay, so we'll just bring in some more text to make it more visible. Let's say I have added this much data. Then I'm going to my area type options. Then I'm increasing the number of rows, then columns. Okay, right now we have 6 rows and 3 columns. And what is this span? The span is the spacing between these rows, right? So under the rows column, this span would mean the spacing between the rows, and under the columns option, this span would mean the spacing between the columns, right? Okay. Then we have this gutter. What is this gutter? Gutter is the spacing between all the rows and columns right now that we have. This gutter space where no text is present, this would be called the gutter for the row and the column. All right. If you want this span to be fixed, you can change the values from here, right? Okay. Then we have offset. If you want to, if you want the text to be, inset around the bounding box, so you can just incorporate your text like this inside the bounding box, or you can just keep it this way. Then we have certain other options, so you can just play around all these options, and you can change the text flow. Right now it is going by rows from left to right. If you want to go it by columns, then you can change it that way as well. So these are certain settings that you can manipulate in your text, right? So these are the area type options, which will come handy once you are making certain data which has to come in a tabular form, or you are designing a data or a chart for a newspaper or a magazine. So there you can utilize this area type options. If you want, if you're fine with these settings, you can just hit OK, or otherwise you can hit cancel. Okay, so moving on to our type categories. The first one is the area type tool. Now what does this tool does? So before selecting this tool, let's say I draw a rectangle and then I draw a circle. Then we want to have a polygon. Okay, so these are 3 shapes that we have. Now what if we want some data to be incorporated inside these shapes? Let's say you are designing something very creative and very funky, and you want to incorporate your data in certain shapes. How can we do that? Well, don't worry, we have that feature in Illustrator, and we can simply do that by using the area type tool. So what does this area type tool does? You'll just simply select this, and you have already created your area in which you want to incorporate some text. All you have to do is select that path with your area type tool active on this panel. Just select that path, and now that data has been incorporated inside that particular shape. This was the rectangle that we created, and there is some data. Okay, and then if I want some data to be incorporated inside this circle, how can I do that? I'll just simply select that circle. Then with my area type tool selected, I'll simply click on the path, and then we have our data inside the circle. Then again, if I want my data to be inside this polygon, I'll select the polygon and then select my area type tool and enter the data. All right, you can always, this is the dummy text, but if you don't want that, you can get rid of it and enter your own data. Okay, so this is how you enter data in a specific area or a specific region. All right, so this was quite simple, quite easy. Okay, so what, any kind of shape that you are creating, you can incorporate your data inside that. Then moving on, we have our type on a path tool. Now, just like I was saying in the very beginning, that we can always incorporate our data on a path as well. Let's say we have constructed this path. I'll just create a random path for you. Okay, so this is a random path, and then I want to incorporate certain text on this. How can I do that? I'll just simply select my type on a path, and with this path selected, I'll just hover over this and click on this path. Then see, the dummy text has been incorporated on the path, and I'll just get rid of this and type something of my own. This is a path on which we have text. Okay. All right. So what are certain options that we have for this path? Now, if you see this box, what does this box does? Well, all you have to do is it is an anchor point. Now it is going to, it is going to make sure, okay, just a second. I'll select this again. Now with this box selected, I can make sure from where I want to start my text on this path. If you want to start at this particular curve, you can, move your text from here. So you just have to select this anchor point, this one right over here. When you hover over this is how the icon would look like. It is an arrow which is pointing towards the right. So this would decide where on the path you want your text. Okay. And then we have another anchor point on the right hand side. What will it do? It will just, adjust the spacing of your text on this path. If you want to decrease the spacing, let's say right now we have decreased the spacing. Okay. Then again, if you want, make sure that this tool is active first. See, if I'm decreasing the spacing, then I'm losing some of my text as well. But if you want that text back, you can just increase this. So it is just, just like our bounding box that we had in paragraph tool, it is similar to that bounding box. It is just, maintaining our bounding box. Let's say we just have this much of a bounding box and we want text to be present only on this region of the path. So our other text, which has been, this red box is indicating that some of our text is overflowing, which means we have lost that text, and if we want to incorporate that, we can either continue somewhere else, or we can just increase the size of our bounding box and make our entire text visible. Okay. Then similarly, we have one anchor point in the middle as well. Now what does this anchor point do? It would adjust. You can either place your text this way, or you can, change it downwards as well. So on a path, you can either place your text above that path or below that path. By just using this anchor point in between, you can adjust your text that way. Okay. All right. So this was something that we have done with the type on path tool. Then we have vertical type tool. Now let's say you have selected this tool, and then this dummy text is showing you that whatever you are going to type will be coming this way. All the letters are coming one by one in a vertical format. And now if you want to edit this and type something of your own, let's say I'm typing this is vertical text. And when you press enter, you can see that the text is coming vertically only, and it is uh, starting and ending in a vertical format. Instead of going in the next line, it is going in the next position from where it can start the text vertically. All right, so again, if you change the line by pressing enter, so this is what the vertical type tool will do for you. So this we made with the path type on a path tool. This is what the vertical type tool will do for you. Then next is what we have, vertical area type tool. Now with this text, you need to have a path first. Let's say I'm taking this vertical path, and then I'm selecting this tool and selecting this path. Right. Okay, what you have to do is, okay, for this one, we will have to again create a shape first. Let's say I'm drawing this shape, and then with my vertical type tool vertical area type tool selected, I just have to click on that path. And if you see, it has filled that area with the text that is coming vertically. Okay, so this is the difference. Once you click on your vertical type tool, you can simply enter data vertically. Whatever you will type would come vertically. But what if you want to enter that specific area in a path? Let's say I'm drawing an ellipse, and if you want that text to be incorporated in this ellipse but vertically, so for this, what you will select, you are going to select your vertical area type tool. So always remember the difference between the type of tool that you are selecting. So if you have to incorporate a certain text in a particular area, select the area type tool. And if you just simply have to enter a data horizontally or vertically, you have to select that particular tool. So next is vertical type tool on a path. So just like we typed a tool on a path like this, if we have a path which is, vertical, let's say I'll draw a random path with the pencil tool. Let's say I have this path, and then I have to type vertically on this. Then I'll select this path, and now you can see the data has been entered on this path vertically. Okay, all right. And then again, you can manage all these options from where on the path you want your data to start. All right. So this is another thing. And then we have the touch type tool. Okay, so what does the touch type tool do? Let's say you have typed in a text with your type tool. Let's say I'm typing Ed4u4Sure. Okay, I'll just increase the size of this one. And now let's say I want to manipulate a single letter of this text manually. How can I do that? Instead of using those options for moving a particular letter above the baseline or below the baseline or rotating the particular letters, how can I do this manually? So I will have to just select my text and go to the touch type tool. Now what this tool will do, with this tool, you can simply select a particular letter of your word, and then you can either move it upwards, downwards, or if you want to resize it, you can change the size of it. Okay. And let's say if you want to rotate it, you can do that as well with this rotation. All of these settings you can do manually instead of using those options which were there in the character panel. You can do these manually. But one thing that I want to tell you, that whenever you are using, let's say you have selected this S with, okay, right, make sure your touch type tool is active. Then let's say you have selected it, this S. Now instead of moving it upwards or downwards manually, just use your arrow keys to be more precise, because this way it is aligned with other text and it is moving upwards and downwards very precisely. But if you do it with your hand manually, chances are that you're going to change the alignment and you're going to it is, you're shifting this particular letter, but it is not done very precisely. It can be a bit towards the left or a bit towards the right. So to avoid that, use your arrow keys, I would recommend. Okay, so let's just place it here only. So if you have selected this, you can select any of these options from the drop down as well. Okay, you can increase the size of this one and then rotate it and make it or place it above or below. So, and then again, if you want to move this D, you can move this D as well. You can move this S. All right. So this is the advantage of the touch type tool. Whatever features that we had in the character panel, which we were doing from those options, we can do that with the touch type tool manually. All right. So it can give you, some sort of more customization and more freedom in changing your letters or in changing the characters as per your requirement. Okay. So this is the advantage that we have with the touch type tool. All right. So these were all of our different categories of tools. We have covered these tools. Now let's say I want to show you another thing that we can do with the area tool. We have deleted that text. Now let's say I am creating a magazine. Now, as we are creating a magazine, I need a title for that, right? So I'm going to type in a title for my magazine. Let's say our title is Vogue. Okay. Let's imagine this is a Vogue magazine that we are designing. We'll change the font. Okay, let's just place it here. Then I type in certain text with my area type tool. Okay. Let's say we have this dummy text right now, and as you must have seen in the front covers of the magazine, there is an image of a celebrity or a popular person, renowned person that they are promoting, or that they have published on the cover page. Now let's say we have a photo of Shah Rukh Khan. I have already opened that image for you, and I'll just bring this image here. Okay, let's resize this image. Okay, now let's say I want to place this image right in between, and now I want my text to be incorporated around Shah Rukh Khan and not behind it. So as you must have seen in the magazine that there is certain text written towards the right and left of the main focus, which is the actor or the actress. Okay, so how can we do that? How can we incorporate that? Well, for that, all you have to do is, let's just trace the outline of Shah Rukh Khan first with our pen tool. So we'll just create a random outline. You don't have to be very precise. It can be just a rough outline. Okay, I'll just make sure that your fill option is disabled and changed to none. Okay, so we have created this outline. Okay. And now what you're going to do is, so again, this is how our magazine is going to look like. You can always, add small little details. So what I did was I just hide this. I have just hidden this outline layer that we created around this actor, and then I changed some font colors. You can always change the color of these fonts, just like we change the color of any object. Okay, it is quite simple. Just select that font and go to the character panel. So this is very basic. This is just a basic design that I have made right now. You can add a barcode, you can add a certain more details, you can add a volume number, an issue number, or an issue date, and you can incorporate more images, you can give some gradients and some more images you can utilize, and some more text around the actor, or you can give some margins. So this is just a basic idea, just to give you a view of how you can use the text wrap option. So that's it. That is all that I wanted to tell you about the type and typography. Now there are certain other fundamentals to typography which you are going to learn as and when we are going to create something in Adobe Illustrator in our upcoming sessions. All right, so what we have covered today, we have seen the character, we have seen how to incorporate, how to type text in Illustrator, how to write how to type a point text and a paragraph text, and how to convert a point to paragraph and paragraph to point text. Then we have looked over the character panel. Then after the character panel, we have looked at the various categories of the type tool, right? And then using the area type tool, we have utilized the area of the text wrap tool, and we created this basic design magazine cover for so this is how you can incorporate a text around an image. And with the various other functions, you can perform a lot of creative things and create a lot of other designs as per your requirement. Let's say you're designing a poster, you can use the touch type tool to create some very funky designs, and you can manually set the letters above and below the baseline and rotate them. So experiment with all these tools and create something of your own. So I hope you have followed along with me in today's tutorial. I will see you in the next session. Till then, keep learning and keep exploring, and most importantly, keep practicing, because that's the only way to be more creative.